Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana, and we're here today with special guest, Anna Goldfarb, who's here to share with us her new book, Modern Friendship: How to Nurture Our Most Valued Connections. So why are modern friendships so ambiguous? Well, today's guest is here to share with us how to overcome just that. So Anna Goldfarb is a journalist, author, and speaker. Called the New York Times Friendship Correspondent, Anna's work explores the nuances of friendships, relationships, and pop psychology. She has reported for outlets including the New York Times, The Atlantic, Time, Vice, The Cut, Vox, The Washington Post, and many more. So welcome to the show, Anna Goldfarb.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, what an honor it is to have you here and to talk about this new book. I can understand why it's getting such amazing reviews. You have to tell me though, like what even got you interested in this whole topic of modern friendship?
Oh my gosh. Well, pretty much like everyone, my friendships started to buckle in my 30s. And I was really confused about what I was seeing. I have so many friends from different parts of my life. I lived in three different cities. Um, I had friends from different hobbies, just all different spheres. And I really didn't know how to regard this collection of friends that I've amassed. Um, I didn't know, am I a good friend? Are they bad friends? Am I a bad friend? Who's dropping the ball? Whose responsibility is it to even keep the ball in the air? I just felt like my friendships were really letting me down. And since I'm a journalist, I get the joy of investigating why this is. I got to talk to, the world's best leading academics, researchers to be like, why are friendships so much harder to maintain? And the more I learned, the more questions I had. So I wanted to put together something bigger, more comprehensive to really get to the bottom of why are friendships so precarious these days. It's just a whole new world that we're in, and nobody talks about it, but we all feel it.
Oh, isn't that the truth? I mean, someone has a bad hair day and, they can be off the friend list for who knows how long.
Yeah, I mean, the stakes are so much higher. I feel like if I don't perfectly support a friend going through a tough time, like they cut you out. That's a lot of the advice is like get rid of toxic people, get rid of people, get rid of people. And I'm like, but I don't want anyone to get rid of me. So that just created to my anxiety of I don't know how to support my friends through these complex problems. But I'm expected to know. And that's part of what made the whole friendship thing so confusing. Like, what is my role here? Um, and I just felt this pressure to be everything, a pressure to be a therapist, like a sister, a best friend all rolled into one. And I just wanted to know like what's up with that. Like what is up with that is and I found some really interesting answers.
Oh, and that all that seems above most of our pay grades here. I mean,
Yeah, it's
because
like I don't know. I'm not a trained therapist, but our friends come to us for counsel and we don't have a lot of good models of what this looks like to counsel a friend. Like, we're just sort of I felt friendships were very bewildering. And I think a lot of people feel the same way. I felt like I had 100 friends, but also zero friends. I have a Rolodex of people on my phone, but I never call them. So I think that's something a lot of us can relate to.
so when we talk about modern friendship, what is that?
Well, modern friendship is understanding that we live in a hyper fluid society and it's very, very different than even our grandparents, even our parents. We live in a society where people move around a lot more. My grandma lived in the same house for 53 years. I certainly haven't. I haven't done anything close to that. Um, my grandma was married at 18 and I was married at 39. So just our life experiences have been so wildly different. Modern friendship is realizing we can be friends with anyone, anywhere, for any reason. We can be friends with people of different classes, different races, different genders, different identities. There's this flexibility and freedom to modern friendship in a way that our grandparents didn't enjoy. My grandma never had a best guy friend. I don't know if your grandma ever did, but most likely no, they did not. Um, but that also all that flexibility comes with the downside of it's so easy to shed friends. It's so easy to shed friendships because your identity changes in ways that just weren't possible just a few generations ago. Just think of how many different things we can be into of, oh, I'm into cycling. Oh, wait, I'm a vegan. Oh, I'm an avid reader. Oh, I'm also, it's like you can be so many things and you seek out people who can give you compelling information about those areas that you're interested in. So we have unlimited choice, but there's also the penalties that come with unlimited choice of, it's hard to have more enduring friendships when you have such access to so many people. It's really overwhelming.
Well, I would agree with you on that. I mean, we
I
can
can hear you
have
nodding. I can hear you nodding.
I'm like, "Yes." Well, and it's interesting. I love how in your book you talk about that modern friendship is about choice, time, and attention. And I'd love for
Mm.
you to dive into that for our listeners.
Oh my gosh, that is the crux of modern friendship is choice. Who do we choose to focus on? Time. Who do we prioritize spending our time with? And attention is what do we choose to pay attention to? You know, um, I think social media has flattened our social lives in a way that's very unnatural. We have our social lives should be set up where we focus on a few people and we're an excellent teammate to those few people. But social media throws everyone you've ever met in a feed and they all share common history with us, but not with each other. And that's part of the loneliness is, yeah, I have all these friends from all different parts of my life, but it doesn't feel as good as you think it would feel because they're not in conversation with each other. It's all only through you, and the burden has shifted in a hyperfluid society like the one we live in, where we individually are responsible for keeping our friendships active. We don't have these institutions that help. You know, my our relatives were most likely much more religious. They belonged to a church or a synagogue that helped with social events. They helped put on, you know, s- all sorts of every week they had something offering people to get together. And when you don't have institutions helping, I mean, the burden is on us individually. So, what do you do with this information? And I really liken it to shopping in a supermarket when you're hungry. And if you go shopping when you're hungry, you put anything in your cart that looks good. You just let your cravings run the show. You're like, I will have a mozzarella stick from the hot bar. I'll have this, ice cream pint. Like you just put whatever you want in, whatever your desires are. And when you check out, you think, how am I going to make a nutritious, healthy meal out of all these random things I've put in my cart? Now, when you go food shopping and you're not hungry, you're full of good nutritious food, and you have a shopping list, you know exactly what to put in your cart. And going food shopping isn't nearly as fraught. And that's exactly what's happening with our social lives. We have a supermarket of choice on our phones, online, and if you just let your cravings lead the way of like, well, I actually really miss this old coworker. Let me reach out. Hey, how are you? Thinking of you. I'm going to reach out to this old friend from childhood, thinking of you. And then it's like nothing nutritious. There's nothing actually anchoring these friendships. It's just sort of cheap junk connection, as opposed to friends that you're invested in and you see them every week. You learn about them. You learn about their traditions. You learn about all the roles that they play. It's just so wildly different, the kinds of healthy friendships you can have when you have a strategy.
So is that one of the things that we kind of have wrong when we're developing friendships is that is in many ways we're developing these very superficial, reaching out to people as opposed to really deep connections.
Well, I think people hear the advice of you should reach out to people. Like there's a loneliness epidemic, and a lot of the advice is just send that message, just reach out, check in on people. But what that advice is missing is you're probably not spending much energy thinking about how your message lands in the recipient's inbox. When you reach out to someone and say, "Hey, I miss you, thinking of you, how have you been?" to someone who's busy or overextended, I mean, that's like a homework assignment to reply to that. Where do I start? How have I been? Now I have to sit down and write a reply. Um, and so a lot of times those messages don't lead anywhere, as opposed to, hey, I'm reaching out because I've been thinking about you. I heard that you recently went on a trip to Peru. I'm thinking about going to Peru. What did you enjoy about the trip? Like some reason to be in touch. We need to give each other more information up front so that people can successfully reply to our messages. So that's part of the miscalculation of the messaging around loneliness is, yeah, it's one thing to reach out to people, but you have to consider where they are. What are they interested in talking about? What are they interested in doing? I don't think people spend much effort at all thinking about that. It's very self-centered. It's, well, I want to connect with a friend. I want to go out for happy hour. I want laughs. I want connection. It's like, well, what's in it for the other person? So, I mean, I can hear wheels turning of like, oh, okay, do I do that? It's like, well, what's the proof is in the pudding? Are people replying to your messages? Are plans getting booked? Are you being included in things? And if not, maybe your messages are too low effort that people just don't feel moved to reply because they're not sure why you're reaching out.
Well, I think a lot of times people don't understand that, developing and maintaining lasting relationships requires that we put in work. It's not something that just will automatically happen. I mean, we've got to show up.
I think people are aghast at the effort it takes to have active friendships. I know a lot of people are like, I put so much effort into my family relationships, my work relationships. I don't want to put any effort into my friends. I want it to be easy. But what those people misunderstand is that it is such a pleasure to witness your friends, your people you admire, and to be a witness to their challenges and triumphs. It gives us such deep meaning to feel like you're a part of something bigger than yourself. And that's what friendship is. It's not what my friends do for me. It's what can I be a part of to help these wonderful people in my life? How can I help them? But it really comes down to what people misunderstand about friendship is they think affection is enough. They think, oh my gosh, we got along 20 years ago. We should just be friends forever into the future. Um, but that's not how people work. And that's not how friendships work. Friendships are about something outside of the two friends. Every friendship needs an about, and the about needs to be clear and compelling to both people. Here's what I mean. When you're in school, when you were a little kid and you met someone at the lunch table, and they said, "Oh my God, I love horses." And you're like, "I love horses too. Let's talk. Well, what kind of horses do you?" Then you're off to the races and no pun intended. And you're just talking about that thing that you both are excited about. That is what friendships are based on. It's based on things apart from you that you both can marvel at, you both can experience and explore together. That's what friendship is. Um, so it's really like, what are those topics, those interests that you and your friend can enjoy together? And abouts can change. Like that horse friendship might mature into a deeper friendship based on, values. And maybe they're both into healthcare. Then all of a sudden they have all sorts of abouts. Um, abouts can be outdated. Maybe your friendship was about horses, but now it's about gosh, anything, knitting. And you're like, well, we don't really talk about horses anymore. What can we talk about today that would both be compelling to us? And abouts can be absent. And those are those friendships where like we have no reason to be in touch. We don't have an about. There's no reason to check in on each other. Um, so just understanding the about that, and I call that desire. That's a desire for a particular friendship. And that's why you seek out some friends over others, is because the about is more compelling to you and to your friend.
I really like in your book, you go over several points, but we won't cover all those. But one of them is that our friends will disappoint us. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of times we put so much pressure on people, like they're going to say the right thing and do the right thing all the time.
That is such a high standard. And, I really felt that lesson of friends will disappoint us. But when my father died in 2021, one of my best friends didn't really reach out. Like I really was thought I'd get like a cheese plate or something. Like I thought I'd get a card. Um, and I was really shocked that I didn't hear from this friend who I've known for 20 years. And I really had to forgive her. I had to dig deep and think. I talked to experts about it for the book. I interviewed them like, what's up with this? How come I didn't hear from this friend? And what I learned was that when people, when there's uncertainty, that creates anxiety. And when my father died, I bet what happened was she wasn't sure what to do. It was during COVID. She just had a newborn. I'm sure she thought about it all the time. I should send flowers. No, wait, maybe I should send food. No, wait, maybe I should. And she probably spun out from the anxiety and ended up doing nothing. And I just learned to forgive her. I learned to forgive her. It's like, I imagine she's racked with guilt over this, and I'm just going to forgive her and just move on. And our friendship is fine. Like I know her. Uh, I just had to forgive her and move on because I love her. And so that's what I mean is like sometimes friends will just other friends stepped up, friends who I never thought I'd hear from called in and checked on me. So it was a really interesting experience of, you never know what's going to happen with friendships. It's really dynamic. These are dynamic relationships. And the best thing we can do is have flexible expectations. My friend didn't know what to do when my dad died, but, maybe she'll learn from it. And, it's pop culture would tell me to drop her. Pop culture would tell me like she's toxic. She didn't do enough. But I know better. And I know that that's not always the wisest decision. It's giving people grace and, you know, just loving your friends and allowing them to make mistakes.
Well, we really never know what's going on with another person. So to hold them up
Yeah.
to a standard, going, okay, well, I should be, where's my fruit platter or something or
Yeah. Where's my
something.
casserole?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, and no joking aside, because I'm so sorry for your loss. I mean,
Thank
losing a
you.
parent is never easy. And going through that with having a friend would make everyone question. But I like how you approach this because you do hear a lot. It's like, oh, these are toxic people. This is toxic.
Hmm.
So it seems like almost anything that we disagree with or aren't feeling that meets our expectation in
Hmm.
social media and other places can be thrown into this toxic pit.
I think that's so short-sighted and it's cruel. I think, behaviors can be toxic. I'm not saying that there aren't things in friendships that, are huge issues, but people aren't toxic. People are imperfect. And it was an opportunity to love her and show her, when she goes through a hardship, I'll show her how I practice friendship and maybe she'll learn I have to allow her room to grow. That's what I want. That's what I would want friends to do with me. I'm sure I didn't meet the moment when I had friends who lost loved ones. I didn't understand. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what was appropriate. And I thank them for having patience with me. And now it's my turn to be patient with my friends too.
I think we've all been there. We've all been there.
Yeah, we don't know what we're doing. Like, there's
I have no
no,
clue.
we have
Yeah.
no clue. We have no clue. And, a lot of those institutions that tell us what to do, here, sit Shiva, here, this is what we do, in a death. We don't have those anymore. We don't have a common language. So we're all little Bambis getting our legs out underneath us of, I don't know what I'm doing. Like that's the sense, that's the prevailing sense that I see of, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just trying my best. And we have to give each other grace. And I think that's beautiful to give your friends grace and to say, listen, I know it was an uncertain time. I know you had a newborn. I It's okay. It's okay.
Well, on that note, we're going to pause here for a quick break. We've been speaking with Anna Goldfarb in regards to her new book, Modern Friendship: How to Nurture Our Most Valued Connections. You've been listening to Moments with Mary Ann. We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
Are you an author, speaker, or expert who is looking for more publicity? Visit radioguestlist.com and sign up for free interview requests from shows looking for guests. Radio Guest List is the #1 free booking resource for radio, podcasts, and TV talk shows who are looking for experts like you right now. Visit radioguestlist.com and sign up today to get the visibility you deserve.
There comes a moment when you realize you're somewhere special. When you discover that each beautiful creature that you see has been rescued from a life of absolute horror and brought to this incredibly free place. Here's where their lives were forever changed and where yours will as well. Discover over 500 tigers, bears, and lions at the brand new visitor center at the Wild Animal Sanctuary just outside Denver. For more information, visit wildanimalsanctuary.org. Discover true freedom at the Wild Animal Sanctuary.
It's one thing to become attached to your perfect home, but what do you do when that home becomes attached to you? A family in dire need of a fresh start, a mysterious house tied to the past. Buried deep within the foundation of the old Far Hill Manor lies a centuries-old secret. Dark forces or something stronger just waiting to be discovered. Caretaker, a supernatural thriller by breakout authors R.J. Halpert.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
I'd like to thank Jason Eastwood at Guitarfulness for sharing his inspiring music and talent with us. His music is known worldwide for cultivating atmospheres of harmony, inner peace, and clarity. Visit Jason's website at guitarfulness.com. Join his newsletter, be part of his community, and download his music. Welcome back to Moments with Mary Ann. We're here today with special guest, Anna Goldfarb, who's sharing with us her new book, Modern Friendship: How to Nurture Our Most Valued Connections. I know you talk about boundaries in relationships, and I'd love for you to share with us why those are so important.
Boundaries are important to a friendship because when you agree to do things that you don't really want to do, that's a form of lying. And friends will not tolerate lying in a friendship. That's one of the biggest friendship killers. So when I learned that people pleasing is a form of lying, I had to nip that in the bud. I was like, I don't want to lie to my friends. I don't want to agree to do things that I don't want to do. I really had to learn, no, I want to be an honest friend. I have to be upfront. I have to be upfront with my limits of I can't do this right now, but here's what I can do. Here's what I'm willing to do. And then my friend will trust me more because they know that I'm being honest with them. So boundaries are really important. And it doesn't have to be complicated or um, like severe. It's just, I see what you're asking and here's what I can do. Like, what do you think? It's a negotiation. And friends should expect to negotiate with each other because we have so many responsibilities and obligations as adults. And we need to be flexible. We need to support one another. We need to be great teammates. And one of the best way to be a teammate is to be honest. One of my best friends couldn't make my wedding, couldn't attend my wedding reception because she had work. And like I said, everything would tell me like, oh my God, she's not a real friend, cut her out. And it's like, no, I get it. She works, she's a demanding job. I'm like, girl, I get it. I know you'd be there if you could. I get it. It's not a big deal. And we're still best friends to this day. And part of it was because she was honest with me, like, I can't make it. She didn't lead me on and say, I'll see what I can do. And then at the last minute, it's like, no, it's not going to work. She's like, I can't make it. And she sent me champagne and some glasses to my house. Like she did a great job. I'm like, no notes. You were honest with me about your limits, and I love that. So if I can do that about the weddings and deaths, like anyone can do this. We want to encourage honesty. We want to make our friends feel safe to say no to things. We want to show that we're flexible and that we see our friend for all the roles that they play. And friends want to be friends with people who do that. That will increase the likelihood of the friendship enduring.
I know earlier we talked about how we're going through a loneliness epidemic at this point. What are some ways that people can make new friends? How can they put themselves out there and make new friends?
I think, in my opinion, the loneliness epidemic is a inevitable response when people sit and think, why don't my friends reach out to me more? Why aren't I being included? Why haven't I heard from other people? And it just puts you in such a negative spiral. And I think people think, well, my best friends would run across the country barefoot to help me. My best friend should drop everything at the drop of a hat to be there for me. And when people don't live up to those expectations, it's like, well, are we even friends? Is this even a good friendship? And what I encourage people to do is not think about making new friends for enhancing your life. It's how can you enhance other people's lives, people that you admire? And when you turn the lens outward, and it's not so much, why is nobody calling me? It's, well, who have I called? Who can I help? Who's doing things that I think are really cool that I want to be a part of? That gives us meaning. So if you want to make new friends, I mean, studies show people think they'd be happier with new friends, with more friends, but studies show it actually feels better to be considered someone's best friend. And that's because that's a measure of our inner beauty, our good character, our integrity, in a way that just having friends doesn't impart those things to us. I mean, our phones are full of names of people that we love, but it doesn't feel as good as you think it would feel. It's who calls us their best friend? So knowing that, what you can do to make new friends is, this is what I do. This is straight from my book, like literally my life book and my actual book. I reach out to people I admire and say, how can I help? I reach out to other writers and say, I see you have a book coming out. I just had a book out. How can I help you? Would you like some names for media leads? Do you need help with your newsletter? I'm here to help. And that's really interesting. And that makes people be more open to connection with you. When you offer something, when you come and you offer, it doesn't have to even be anything substantial. It could be like, hi, like, well, what are you working on these days? Or what are some of your goals? And someone says, I'd like to move my body more, but it's like, oh, well, do you want to start a hiking club? Do you want to start go to yoga class? Like, I can help with that. then you're off to the races. And then you have a clear and compelling reason apart from you. Um, that's the key. So when you want to make new friends, it's really finding people and saying, how can I help with what you're doing? And then see how it goes and then see if it can deepen. Friendships take a really long time to develop. One study said that it takes over 200 hours of shared activities to go from stranger to close friend. So when you think about these 200 hours, it's like, well, what do I want to do during these 200 hours? What would make them really fun? What would make it fly by? And that's the direction to go in. I love museums. I need someone to go to like, wonder if there's a museum buddy out there. Like, hey, anybody want to go see some museums? I've been dying to go see this new exhibit and see what bubbles up. I mean, those are invitations you can send to your network, to people you meet. Um, and it's a place to start.
I think that is so fabulous, being able to do something with no expectation of anything back and just developing that connection. I mean, what a great gift that is.
It's it's so pleasurable because we're social creatures. We're hardwired to want to be social, but we live in a culture that isn't setting us up for success. We live in a culture that has shifted the burden of keeping our social networks afloat onto us. We live in a spoke network where we're in the middle and we have these branches of cohorts from, childhood, school, our neighborhood, our job, but they only share common history with you and not with each other. And I mentioned this before, but that is why it's so much harder to 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 get, to keep a network going. So it's on us to do it. And I personally feel like it's empowering to know this, to know that it's not just me. It's like this is how our culture is set up. Um, this is something everyone's dealing with. Everybody is now the cruise ship director of their own social life. And so everyone's in it together. So what can we do with that information? We can make it easy. Be like, well, what are you interested in? Is there overlap? I want to help. Let's figure it out. And that's where it starts. That's where every friendship starts. And I think a mistake people have is comparing new friendships to their long-standing older friendships. And they might find new friendships not as fulfilling because you don't have that deep history. I would say just keep at it. Friendships take a long time. Just keep showing up, see where it goes, be open, be flexible, and you might really be surprised. I'm in my 40s and I'm having the best friendships of my life. And it's not because I'm some great person. Like I'm still the same person. I just know where to put my efforts. I know to pick a few people, 3 to 5 people, science says, and just be a wonderful teammate to them. And that's all you need. And we did that in school, in high school. You probably just had a handful of friends that you focused on. You weren't trying to juggle a million people from all different parts of your life. You just picked a few people and you just did the thing, right? So let's go back, like let's stop, let's be intentional, and you can have wonderful, fulfilling, meaningful friendships. You just need a strategy.
Is that what the 14-day friendship cleanse in your book is about, is developing that type of strategy?
Yes, and it's all based on research so the friendship cleanse comes at the end of the book after you've read all my research and examples so that you understand the science behind these low lift tactics. I mean, nothing will be out of one's comfort zone. I'm not asking you to jump out of an airplane. Nothing's going to feel like it's not you. Like you're still you. I'm not trying to change you. I'm just trying to give you direction of here's how people tick, here's what makes people tick, and here's how you can use that knowledge in your favor. The 14-day friendship cleanse, you will have better friendships in under 2 weeks. And I know that because I used it in my own life. And when I started reporting on friendships, I was estranged from one of my sisters. We could barely get through a meal without just, having contempt, like, and just feeling misunderstood. And when I started reporting on friendships in 2017 for the New York Times, I started applying everything I learned to my relationship with the sister. And now we're best friends. She calls me every day. I see her every week. I go over to her house every Sunday. Um, our relationship has transformed. And what changed was I stopped thinking, why isn't my sister happier for me? Why doesn't she care more for me? And I switched it to, what can I do to help her? How can I see her for her struggles? And how can I help make it better? That changed everything. That changed everything. And it opened up pockets by me showing up for her, me coming every week, being consistent, me being positive every week, sending her funny memes and funny messages and funny photos, me being vulnerable. And these are all tenets from Shasta Nelson. She's written extensively about friendship. And she says healthy friendships require positivity, consistency, and vulnerability. And that's everything that I applied to this relationship with my sister. And it transformed. What my research has done is build on Shasta's research. And I talk about desire, like where desire comes from for a particular friendship. I talk about diligence of how to prioritize someone. And I talk about delight, which is how to make someone feel seen and supported. So this is such an exciting time to be writing about friendship because there's so many new approaches and paradigms that are coming out, and we're building on each other's work. And I just want people to feel hopeful and optimistic and empowered. Like, we can do this. Anyone can do this, and it will be life-changing.
It really shifts things from this ambiguous, we don't know what the heck is going on to we have a plan,
That was my goal. I'm like, all right, what is the haps? And my background, I'm a service journalist. And what that means is I write articles with concrete advice. I talk to experts and I'm like, here's how to manage this. Here's what to do. And I wanted to do that with friendship of here's what to do with this giant ambiguous blob in our lives that the source of so much dissatisfaction and hand wringing, and just cutting through and giving language and helping people orient themselves to this new landscape and just feeling empowered by it.
Well, I love how you made this shift personally. You made your own shift, like, how can I help? Which
Yeah.
is in many ways, I would think like a paradigm shift for a lot of people. Instead of going, well, what can you do for me? It's like, how can I
Mhm.
help? And I love how that also is working with other relationships. It's not just friendships, it's family. And I think for a lot of people, they're going, okay, well, I could use a little help in my family relationships as well.
I wrote an article for the New York Times about sibling relationships. And what I learned is that the number one thing siblings w- desire is for their siblings to tell them that they're loved and that they love them. And that just moved me so much of, these relationships are so precious to us, but we don't always take the time to appreciate and honor these people in our lives. And I transformed this relationship. I am proof that when you change your mindset, when you go from, my this person isn't doing enough for me, that's what creates loneliness. Okay, belonging is absence of loneliness. Belonging is having meaning. And when you reach out to someone you care about and say, I'm here to help, that creates meaning and that creates belonging. And then you're on your way. You're fighting loneliness. You're part of something bigger than yourself.
You've done so much phenomenal research for this book, and I love it because it also has exercises and very practical tips for people. What was some of the research that you discovered that maybe surprised you a little bit?
I think one of the most surprising bits of research was that we lose half of our friends every 7 years. And that at first sounded really jarring. Like, are we just ogres? Just like, you know, just stomping through a village, like cutting down half of our friendships every year. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that that's beautiful. I think that's a beautiful thing that we change. We're dynamic people. We are not static. And we seek out people who have compelling information for us as we change and grow. And it's like we're all growing. We're learning new things about ourselves and the world. So we're going to naturally seek out new friends that can help orient us to our new interests. And a lot of those milestones are like getting married, having children, being in, higher education, starting new jobs. Like we're changing. We don't stay stuck. We're not a stop sign. Um, so it's like this is the world we live in. We live in a world where we are growing and changing and finding new interests all the time that our ancestors did not have access to. There wasn't popular culture, there wasn't popular music just a few generations ago, and now we can bond over a favorite band, or favorite movies, favorite TV shows, or favorite podcasts. Like podcasts didn't even exist, that long ago. So it's really a story of humanity. It's a story of modern life. Like, listen, we grow. We got to surf it. We got to surf these changes. We have to be flexible. We have to be open to meeting new people. We have to, there's, there's so much opportunity, so many people that we meet, and we get to be a part of all these different lives. I get excited about that. I love making new friends. I love seeing people from all different walks of life and just embrace it. I think it's really just that's our challenge for modern friendship is anticipating these waxing and wanings of as people's schedules and life happens, and it's okay, nothing's wrong. You just have to learn how to surf instead of fight the waves. And I think I saw that at like a Home Goods. I think it was like a frame saying like surf the wave, don't fight it. And I was like, that's it. What we need to do for our friendships is feel shatterproof, feel earthquake proof, feel confident that we can make new friends. We know what friendship is, and we can start at any time. Friendship, I always thought, I think people think is something for young people when you're in school, when you're in college, but that's not true. You can have friendships at any age. It's really just this, you got to know the rules of the game.
Well, and as people become caregivers for, elderly parents or
Mhm.
others, or people retire, I mean, life shifts.
Life
So
shifts.
maybe, yeah, what they had more time, now they don't. And with people who retire, it's like all the people you used to hang out with, you don't hang out with them anymore. So now you've got to develop new friends.
And there's a resiliency there. And I'm what I call a pinball. I was born in upstate New York. I grew up in Chicago. I went to college in New York City. Then I moved to Philly. So I've had to restart my life several times. And it creates something interesting. It creates a resiliency and a self-reliance of I know I can make new friends at any time. And I think it could be a shock for people when they haven't had to sharpen those skills before. They haven't had to use those skills. Maybe they just, had a circle of friends from college that they just kept. And then they realize, well, this is actually more of a memorial friendship, not an active friendship. Then you have to like try again. You have to start making new friends and putting yourself out there. And it's really uncomfortable. So discomfort isn't always a bad thing. It just means it's new. But I encourage like get uncomfortable. I went out for drinks last night with a new friend. And I reached out to her and I was like, "Hey, you live in Philly, you're in media. Like we should get together." And we knew so many people in common. So she just texted me this morning. Good morning. So anyway, you can make new friends anytime. You can do this. Um, it's just knowing where to put your efforts for maximum impact.
And having a little bit of grace for the people in our lives too, for sure.
Yes, and try to be the friend that you would want. Like we want our friends to give us flexibility. We can afford our friends flexibility too, and that will make the friendship more pleasurable to be in. It's just a wise strategy. It's like, girl, I get it. It's okay. It's okay. I love you. I'm not going anywhere.
I love that. What do you want our readers and listeners to take away from modern friendship?
I mean, I really want people to feel optimistic. And, I start the book by being like, why bother? Why bother with friendships? There's so many other things life demands of us. And this can feel like a second job, just being on top of, your social life and being available to friends. But what I learned is friends are our legacy. Friendships are one of the most valuable relationships we enjoy because they're unique. They're a relationship of peers. So many of our relationships have these power dynamics, like a boss or a parent or a child. Like there's all these power differentials that friends don't have, and that's what makes them so enjoyable. And I want people to feel empowered of, okay, I see what's happening. I'm in charge of my social life. I have no help. My friend is in charge of their social life. They have no help. How can we make this easy for us both? And really just picking a few people where the about of your friendship is so compelling and just nurturing it with intention and I want to give people language to understand what friendship means, that there's different tiers of intensity in friendship. And it's very fluid. Falling in love will cost you two close friendships. Friends that are a threat to a romantic relationship are usually the first to go. So there's a lot of stuff with like balancing, negotiating friendship in our life. But once you understand this is how people operate, it's easier to form a game plan of, okay, I know this about how people make choices, and here's how I can here's how I can exploit that. Here's how I can help. Exploit in a good way, not in a crummy way. Like here's how I can exploit. People want friends that are flexible. I can do that. I can offer my friend flexibility. I can offer reassurance. I can give certainty so that anxiety is lessened. These are all things we can do for one another. So check out my book. I know there's a lot of gloom and doom about friendship, and I promise you will feel uplifted when you read Modern Friendship. You will have better friendships in 2 weeks or less. I promise you. I sound like a salesman, but like I'm just so excited to be able to offer this. And this is a personal mission for me. This is in memory of my father who died in 2021 and only had 4 people at his funeral. Excuse me, due to it being COVID. And he deserved better. And this is my chance to help people chart a way forward because, my dad had so many friends and none of them were able to be at his funeral. And I don't want anyone to feel like they left things unsaid with the people they cherish most in their life.
Well, I think this is probably one of the most impactful books that I have personally read.
Wow.
Yes, I learned
I
so
love that.
much. I feel like I'm singing to the choir here, and I love how you talk about, you mentioned earlier it's about our being on our cruise ship, and we were in charge of our own cruise ship, and there's so much personal responsibility there. And I'm kind of thinking, are we on the SS Minnow, or are we taking a Viking cruise ship? What are we doing here? I mean,
That's what it's like. It's like, oh, I have this whole other job to plan my social life now. Like, what the heck? Like, I didn't think it'd be this hard.
Mhm.
Um, but it doesn't have to be hard. You just have to get the lay of the land.
Where can our listeners connect with you and learn where they can get a copy of their own modern friendship book? What website do you have?
AnnaGoldfarb.com has everything you need. I have a free excerpt of the introduction and first chapter if you want to see if the book would be right for you. Just anywhere Anna Goldfarb on mostly Instagram. I mean, who has time to do everything? But I'm here to help, and I live by my values. That is my value as a friend. And that's my goal with this book is I'm here to help. And we need help. We need help. There's so much suffering and confusion around this topic. And I wanted to do something to push the conversation forward and really get people oriented so that you feel like you can do this. It feels achievable. And it is. It will be.
Well, Anna, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for taking the time to read the book. I deeply appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Anna. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, Modern Friendship: How to Nurture Our Most Valued Connections. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Mary Ann, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Mary Ann is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Mary Ann will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmaryann.com for more information.